Hi everybody, welcome back. So I thought today I would show you what we had for dinner this week, and I added a couple of bonus things for lunch in here, just in case you needed some ideas for lunches if you're getting kind of bored of the same thing. So right here I have a very inexpensive cut of meat. It was like $9 for this, and it will feed my family for 2 meals. And I was originally going to serve this with mashed potatoes. That's probably what I was explaining, but I figured I would change it and do a voiceover and tell you that I actually ended up serving this over egg noodles, and it's delicious either way. You could do this as a pot roast, but I decided to serve it over egg noodles with a little bit of sour cream. And I did this cut of meat with 2 packs of the brown gravy mix. You could add an extra pack if you really wanted to for extra broth, but I always find 2 to be about enough, and then a whole thing of beef stock. And this really gives it good flavor. You could add an onion, you could do veggies if you wanted to. I just decided to serve this over egg noodles. So here I am getting it all prepared. I'm just going to throw everything in the crock pot. I'm going to cook it on high for half the time and low for the remainder. So it ended up cooking about 7 to 8 hours, which I'll probably explain a little further on. I'm just dumping everything in. Now when I serve this over egg noodles, it might sound a little weird, but it almost has like a stroganoff taste to it. But you can certainly serve this over mashed potatoes. You could serve this with roasted potatoes. You could just throw the potatoes and onion and carrot right in here with it. Any way would be good. And I always feel the cheaper cut meats, as long as they cook and simmer really, really long in a crock pot or on the stovetop, they usually end up being pretty tender and good. So like I said, this was very inexpensive. This was only like $9 on sale. And I had cooked this exact meat at Christmas time because I just couldn't eat turkey again. And I thought this ended up really being really delicious, and that's why I wanted to share with you. Okay, so I just set it on high. I'm gonna cook it on high for a couple hours just to get it really like simmering and going, and then probably it's 10:48 right now. So probably around 1 o'clock I'll turn it down to low, and then my husband will be home around 6. He has a doctor's appointment tonight. So this will cook for 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, between 7 and 8 hours. So I'll do half on low and then, or half on high, half on low. So I love this crock pot. It locks. Obviously you can't lift it by the lid, but it makes me feel safer that it locks. And this is a really nice crock pot. This was a gift for my birthday, and I've only had it for 2 months and probably made 20. I've used it probably about 20 times. I don't know what I was waiting for. So I will show you in a couple hours what it's looking like. Something I wanted to add, if you really wanted to and wanted to get a little fancy and had some extra time, which I do have extra time, I just, honest to God, didn't even think of it, you could sear each side of this to give it a nice sear and a little more flavor. I did that at Christmas. I did sear the meat on all sides, and it gave it amazing flavor. I don't know really what I was thinking. I think I just forgot. I've made it both ways. The only other, I seared this piece of meat the last time I made this particular recipe. I used a different cut of meat, which was London broil, another piece of cheaper meat that if you cook it long enough is delicious. But you could definitely sear this if you really wanted to give it some extra flavor. I just happen to forget, but either way it's going to be delicious. And this is the meat after hours and hours of cooking. Like I said, it was about 7 to 8 hours. It was so tender, it basically fell apart. And I just served it, like I said, over egg noodles with a little bit of cucumber salad on the side. And I like to add sour cream to mine. My husband likes it plain, and it was really, really delicious. And it was plenty for 2 days worth of food. The first lunch is a flour tortilla with Mexican cheese, and of course it is a quesadilla that I am frying on the stove top in butter. I wasn't sure if it was even worth showing, but maybe somebody needed an idea this day. And sometimes, which I love, is when the cheese kind of bubbles out and gets nice and crispy. I cook this on like a medium high heat. I sometimes do it slower if I have more time. And then the easiest way I find to cut it is a pizza cutter, and I just cut it into slices, and sometimes I'll serve it with salsa, a little bit of cheese on the side, or sour cream, however you like. And these can be packed with anything, black olives, chicken, anything you like. Sometimes I just do the cheese because it's so easy, but you could put anything you like, jalapenos, And I was having a whole milk Greek yogurt toasted coconut vanilla with it, and I got this from Aldi's, and I believe these are only 64 cents each at Aldi's, and they're a really good source of protein. I believe it said 12 grams, and yes, I did have a Diet Coke this day. It is my vice. I allow myself one Diet Coke every day. I really shouldn't, but it's the only thing that I really enjoy, or it's one of my only vices, so I just allow it. And then I also found these cinnamon roasted almonds from Walmart. They were about, honestly, these were really, really inexpensive. They were under $5, and it was like 1 pound of cinnamon roasted almonds. So I thought these were a really good snack, and if you have a handful of them, they should keep you full for a while. Now, the next lunch I was making was just a good old-fashioned grilled cheese on white bread. Obviously, you can use any bread that you prefer. I usually love to use rye bread, and I found this delicious Irish butter, really inexpensive actually. It was under $3 at Aldi's. I feel like I've perfected my grilled cheeses, and it's taken quite a long time for me to figure out how to make them without burning them or having the outside cook quicker than the inside. But you could use any type of bread you want, like I said. So I am loading it up with 2 pieces of provolone. Usually that's all I like to do is like provolone or mozzarella, even cheddar. I find American cheese to kind of be boring, but I did have a little extra, couple extra slices that I wanted to use up, but I definitely wanted to pair it with something to give it a little more flavor. So here it is in a pan, and I usually cook it on medium to low heat just so that it has time to melt. Now, I don't know how many people do this, but I always start my grilled cheeses open face, and then I put a lid on them so they can kind of start to melt the cheese. I don't know why I've always cooked them open face in the beginning. It's maybe something my grandmother always kind of did. So I begin by cooking them open face, and then I kind of just peek under, see how they're doing, and then I add them together when they're just starting to get brown, and then I'll put the lid back on, continue to let the cheese melt on a low medium heat, and I'll check it every so often to see if it's starting to brown, and it just gets nice and golden brown. Now this butter works fabulous with this. For some reason that butter just gets it so toasted and delicious. And I'm having a little piece of butterscotch banana bread, which I have a recipe that I'm going to upload for that with it, and I'm just going to have a good old-fashioned grilled cheese with a pickle and a piece of banana bread on the side. And I just had to share that cheese pull. That provolone cheese will always do that for you. Now for this meal, I am making meatballs. I used to buy frozen meatballs all the time, probably out of laziness, until I decided to try it on my own. And I will never not make homemade meatballs. They are so easy, so much more flavorful, and you know what all the ingredients are. So I started out with 2 pounds of ground beef that I'm just going to set aside because I'm going to cut up an onion into small slices or small bite sizes. You can do as much or as little onion as you like. I have a sweet Vidalia onion, I believe this one was, and I'm just going to cut it up really small. You can cut it in any size you want. You could use a food processor if you would like, but I'm just going to get it as small as possible, and I'm going to add both halves of this whole onion, so it's about a medium onion to 2 pounds of ground beef. I do add garlic powder, but I am going to add some of this garlic, minced garlic that I get from Aldi's. This one is just in the water. Add about a tablespoon. You can add absolutely as much as you want or as little or not add it at all. I have in the past added a little too much and it makes it just a little too garlicky, so I try to stick to about a tablespoon. Now here I am cracking and whisking my egg one at a time, and I add two because I do have 2 pounds of ground beef. I like to whisk mine before I add it just so it's easy and I don't overwork my meat when it comes time to combining everything. And I'm just adding the 2 eggs. Now, as far as my spices, I'm doing black pepper, garlic powder, and salt. It's the only thing that I know for sure is how much salt I add. I kind of eyeball everything else, but I end up adding about quite a bit of salt, and I'm adding a little bit of milk. I'm going to say I probably add for 2 pounds of ground beef, probably almost a half a tablespoon of salt. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's a lot of meat. And I added about a fourth a cup of milk, and I ended up adding a whole cup of breadcrumbs. Here I am adding my salt. I kind of just gauge. I do about I just start adding it and looking, but it does end up being about a half a tablespoon. And then I'm gonna do um, about a full cup of breadcrumbs. Again, it's all eyeballing, but I will put a full recipe down below, and I just mix, but I don't over mix so my meat becomes tough. In the past, I haven't added enough breadcrumbs, and I feel like your meatballs will be a little mushy if you don't add enough. So this time I kind of just see how they're sticking together, and just add breadcrumbs as I need it, because you can always add more, you just can't take away. You can definitely make any size meatball you want. I like about dinner size meatballs, so um, I don't know, medium size meatball, and then I just end up putting them in a big glass pan, and I bake these in the oven at 350 for these are about 30 to 35 minutes, and then I'm going to add them to sauce and let them simmer for a couple hours. Now, this night we were having an oven roaster. It was a whole roaster. I believe this was like 6.5 pounds, and I just wanted to show you that I usually season it with this Montreal chicken season. It definitely has salt in it, so be careful. Some ground pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of salt. Not a lot, because like I said, it does have the salt in the McCormick seasoning. I did try those 3D Doritos, and they were not my favorite. They were more like a bugle, to be honest. And I did a little bit of carrot and a little bit of onion to flavor the chicken. So here I am just seasoning the chicken. I only use one hand to touch the chicken so I don't contaminate any of my seasonings, and I just season the whole bird. Sometimes I get inside the cavity even, and I'm just going around and doing black pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, salt, the McCormick seasoning, and I just really season my chicken well. You could do butter, you could add anything you like, celery, carrots, onion, all kinds of stuff to really season this chicken well. You really kind of got to season, or it will be quite bland if you don't have like a rotisserie to cook your chicken. I find that chicken can sometimes be bland. And here I am just shoving pieces of onion in there. I don't really cut them any precise way, and I kind of put them in the cavity and all around it to just give it really delicious flavor. I used to stress a lot about cooking whole chickens, but I did invest in a digital thermometer, which really takes the stress out of knowing if your chicken is fully cooked, especially a big bird like this that can take quite a few hours. I ended up cooking this at, I believe, either 375 or 400. I will double check on that. I'm pretty sure it was 400 actually, for about an hour and 20 minutes until the little thing popped up. And then, of course, I checked the internal temperature, which I believe you want to be at the base to be about 165 degrees inside. Here I am just adding some water to kind of give it some moisture and to kind of make a broth at the bottom. And again, just to give it lots of flavor. Now I'm adding carrots at the bottom. We didn't end up eating these carrots. I kind of just used them for flavor, and I ended up saving anything that came, like any of the drippings, to add to chicken stock next time when I make like a chicken soup or any type of vegetable soup. I will just save that for next time. It always makes like such a beautiful broth on the bottom. But I'm just adding these carrots to give it some really, really good flavor. These are the carrots I got for like $1, and they came in handy. And for quick, easy sides, we just did a rice-a-roni, mashed potatoes, and a can of corn. This can of corn from Aldi's was super salty, so I had to rinse it really well. And I just did I think home style mashed potato and a pasta side from Knorr, and it was really good. Here I am just browning up my rice-a-roni, and it was really, really delicious. And this was the final meal. I hope you really enjoyed this. Look how delicious that bird looks. I hope you got some ideas for this week, whether it was lunch or dinner, and I hope you take a second to subscribe to my channel. I just wanted to show you my meat thermometer here. This had been out resting for about, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, but it was definitely like 170 when I pulled it out. So again, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you subscribe and check in with me next time for what we had for dinner this week. Thanks, guys.